ESPN on ABC.
You are ready for this moment. Your best game.
These are the type of games we dream about. Two big physical teams playing against each other.
With last week's loss, there's going to be a lot of critics out there. The biggest thing is just tune out the noise.
We're not scared of anybody. We're going to fight to the last second.
We're still building this thing, but I think a win would validate who we are and what we stand for.
This is indeed the kind of game that can elevate a program. A spectacular night for football. Wallace-Wade Stadium, Durham, North Carolina, on the campus of Duke, the unbeaten Blue Devils, trying to win a game as a ranked opponent against a ranked opponent, something they haven't done in almost 3 decades. Welcome to Saturday Night Football on ABC, presented by Capital One, and this presentation of the ACC on ESPN. They brought in just a few temporary seats. It's going to be a raucous crowd, and we can't wait for this one to start. Glad to have you with us. Reese Davis and Kirk Herbstreit, Chris Fowler on assignment calling the NFL game tomorrow morning. And Kirk, when you look at Notre Dame, there's not really any way to present the next game until you look at the last one, particularly the way the Irish let it get away late against Ohio State. 41 seconds to go. They're up by 4. Huge win probability. DJ Brown can't get the interception.
Yeah, it sets up this 3rd and 19 up to 85%. I think most Notre Dame fans right now are turning away. Ohio State converts to see the win probability going down. They're under 10 seconds to go. 27% on the run play. If they would have known there were only 10 men on the field, probably much higher. Ohio State scores, and now we're left to wonder, how does Notre Dame respond to such a heartbreaking loss? On the field before the game, talking with Marcus Freeman, one of the things he said to me is he's worked hard. He told us all week he's worked hard to learn from last week. But he said, at this point, I have an angry football team. Not a team that feels sorry for itself, not a team that's worried about last week. An angry football team, which I think is a good sign for Irish fans.
And they've got the steadying presence on offense. The 6-year quarterback, Sam Hartman, the transfer from Wake Forest. He's very familiar with Duke. And, of course, he led a players-only meeting for the offense to try to rebound from Ohio State.
Anytime you hear that, you talk about accountability, you talk about players-only meetings, it means you know you have great leadership. And it wasn't just Sam. It was offensive linemen, some guys on defense. This team has veterans. So when you go through something like last week, it can really help you get ready for tonight.
People have talked about how Notre Dame would bounce back all week, but let's not underestimate this stage for Duke right now and Mike Elko in his 2nd year as head coach.
Boy, it's so impressive to see what he's been able to do just in, as you say, this 2nd year. I want to go back to last year. This guy won 9 games in his 1st year as a head coach, coming over from Texas A&M with Jimbo as a defensive coordinator. And he brings a defensive mind. It's an aggressive mindset. I think it permeates its way all the way to the roster, and these players, they have an attitude. They play with a chip on their shoulder. You would think they'd be intimidated by this. I think they're kind of welcoming the challenge of the Irish coming in here.
That's sort of the mantra of their quarterback, too, Riley Leonard, who's played very well in big-time quarterback matchups. He's a dual-threat guy, elite athlete.
Yeah, an elite athlete, and Mel Kiper and many feel that he's a first-rounder. And I think when you have a quarterback that can pull the trigger, make big plays with his arm, and especially with his legs because of his mobility, Notre Dame's going to take that aspect of his game away tonight.
We're going to talk a lot about these two quarterbacks and what's at stake for both teams. A lot of electricity around Wallace-Wade Stadium tonight. Duke and Notre Dame coming up.
The Nissan pregame drive is next, after this message and a word from our ABC stations.